All right, everybody, welcome to Free. I'm Ryan, and I'm the pastor here, and we are getting started tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here, do y'all hear all the noise here? It's beautiful, isn't it? Lots of energy and good vibes here. We are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, spiritual refugees. What we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. To you, our online community, we're glad you're part of this community. To you here in person, we're glad you're here in person and part of our live community. And let me say this. Is Stephen online? Stephen, if you're online, Stephen shared with us, he is from Pennsylvania. He found Free, and he tunes in every single week. There he is. There he is. Hello from PA. Someone shared this feed over a year ago on their Facebook. They hit the share button, and that's how Stephen found us. So don't underestimate the power of sharing. Hit the share button if you can, because it allows other people to be welcomed into this community. By the way, we do a lot of things here, but what's the one thing we don't do here? We don't do shame in this community. A few things y'all need to know about. First, we have the Rockies game is this Monday night, 6:40. 6:40, the Rockies play the Padres. We were given 100 tickets from the Rockies organization. We were giving those away for free. We were asking for a $5 like a holding donation, and that all goes into our Welcome Home campaign fund. Derek, how many tickets do we have left? We have 7 tickets left, so if you want to go, talk to Derek. Derek, put your hand in the air. Talk to Derek or Hallie next to Derek, and they're going to hook you up with a ticket. Only for 7 of you, though. That's free for you. We ask for a $5 donation just so you don't take it and then don't come. It kind of gives you some skin in the game. It's a 6:40 game this Monday night. There's going to be 100 of us there. It's a sober section, and we're just going to have an awesome time. Thank you, Derek, for lining that up for us. Speaking of things that we have, y'all might have noticed, we have new hats in, we have new shirts in, $25 a piece. So if you want a new hat, new shirt, we got mint green, we got gray, we got black coming next week. We got different hats coming. It feels like I'm selling something up here, doesn't it? Speaking of, we have decals. If you need a decal for the car, they're pretty cool. Have you all seen them out in the parking lot? They're kind of cool. Matt and Amy, are they with us tonight? They're not. Well, you can't. I try to do that, and they don't look very cool when they're not like. There it is. Isn't that really cool? Boom. Listen, these are $10. They were donated to us. Matt and Amy, a family here, they made them for us and said, sell them for $10, and they donated them to us. All this money will go right back into the Welcome Home campaign. I'll say more about that later, but we're in the midst of our Welcome Home campaign where we're raising $600,000. We've raised about $400,000 so far. So grateful for this community. Yeah, big things are happening here. Where's Alyssa? Alyssa, you want to come up and join me for a moment? Man, y'all, this is so exciting. I can't wait to share this news with you. That's what happens when kids leave Alyssa. Bring her on up. Bring the child up. Jesus welcomed the kids. I think we can do the same. She just wants to be on camera. Alyssa Zetek, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think she's going to. Are you going to say anything?
Only if you want me to.
You hold it if something comes to your mind. So, y'all, here's the deal. We have heard from you all with kids. We see it every single Saturday night. This community is growing with with our children. One family in particular, my family has 4 of those, so we know the importance of kids. So I'm going to say more about this in the coming weeks. But Alyssa is coming on board to join us as our new director of family empowerment and free kids. Sorry, I had to get that out. And it's family empowerment and free kids because I need y'all to know this. It's way more than just somebody watching your kids. She's going to do spirituality work, recovery work. She's the loved one of an addict. How this whole thing came about was such a God thing. We had been praying about this, and she said, hey, do you want like someone to do some recovery and spirituality with kids? And I was like, We've been praying about this, and we realized that it's a whole family thing. It's not just the kids. It affects the whole family. You guys know this. We talk about that all the time. So she's going to work with families and kids. She's starting in September. We're going to say more about that next week. But do you want to say anything, Alyssa?
No, I'm just excited, honestly. And obviously, I'm invested because I have my daughter. And it was kind of a cool thing. We're not going to eat that. When we decided to have children, we're like, well, we need to find a church that has a children's ministry. And when Ryan was talking about creating a children's program for here, we're like, that's an answer to our prayers, too. So just know that we're invested in it big time. She's eating stuff. It's just...
It's awesome. Hey, I love having this family here. You know, Aaron was one of our guest storytellers just a couple of weeks ago. They've been with us from the very beginning. Aaron was. You joined like a couple weeks after him, but Aaron was with us all the way back in the backyard. So welcome to the Z-Tex. We will say more about that in the coming weeks. September 1 is when she starts. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, this place is bustling with children, and we love it. All right, y'all, we are in week 4 of our 6-week series with emotions. Tonight is the emotion of compassion. Here's a commercial that was filmed in Thailand. So it's a Thai commercial. Unless you speak Thai, you need to read the subtitles. But I think it says everything to do with compassion. Take a look at this.
ออกมานี่เลยนะไอ้ขี้ขโมยไหนดูสิเอาอะไรไปออกมาดิไปทำอะไรเนี่ยฮะถามว่าเอาไปทำอะไรเอาไปให้แม่
แม่ป่วยเหรอ
อย่าทำอย่างนี้อีกนะ
มวยเกาเหลา จ๋อนายเลยครับนั่งเลยป๊าจัดไปอ้าวสั่งมาเร็วต่ออะไร
Just all go home now? I think that's good. Greg, we don't even need you tonight, dude. Y'all can grab a Kleenex. That says it all, doesn't it? On that note, we start in this community by celebrating. No, seriously, it's the way we start in this community. We don't ignore the hard stuff. We don't ignore the heartaches, but we do start in this community with lifting up the good, the new things. So I want you all to take a couple minutes. Again, if you're online, if you're a part of our online community, you're going to take a couple minutes and get vulnerable and just put your celebrations in the comments. If you're here, we'll do our own thing, but we're going to celebrate the new thing, whether it's anniversaries, sobriety anniversaries, birthdays, new jobs, new babies, new things happening in your life. We like to lift that stuff up, celebrate it together, and we believe that God joins with us in the celebration. So listen, y'all, take 3 minutes, and then we'll come right back. How's that?
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know. Yeah, I'm going for the ride and find myself, I am alive, and I soar. Still I run toward the wind and let the challenge draw me in, 'cause I want more. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. 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 Oh, wake up heart and wake up mind, and see the world is yours to find. And with every passing day there's more, calling you out to explore. Get up and go. There is joy found in the race, and I feel it in the place where I'm free. And I simply can't deny it, that I feel adventure calling out to me. Yeah, we are all looking for adventure. 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 We are all looking for And I'm living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. Living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. I'm living free, living free.
Ah, yes, I love it. We're back, y'all. And hey, we want to welcome 2 people here. So 1, 2, 3. Welcome Martha and Ken. We know that y'all are on here because Dara just told us, so hope we didn't creep you out too much. Glad you guys are here. We had some awesome celebrations in this room of 1 year sober, 1 year sober, new people in the house, 5 months in the house, new jobs being had, all kinds of new people here, people coming back, finding God again. It's just such good celebrations. So, shoot, we don't even remember there used to be a day during the height of COVID when we were in here with just us and we would read the comments as we did this, and now we can't do that. It wasn't too long ago. So now we just rely on the tech team to get them up on the screen. So bring it to us.
There we go. Jennifer says having trials and tribulations, but having dedication to overcome them by grace.
All right, Jennifer.
Thanks for sharing.
We're celebrating
Jen.
that with you. Glad you're part of this community. By the way, welcome to everyone on YouTube, Facebook, and our app if you're tuning in that way. And I just got to say it for the new people. I know everyone knows who this is up here if you're not new, but if you are new, this is Tammy Canada, my wife. And yeah, welcome, Tammy. Welcome to Free. Let us know if you have any questions about the coffee. All right. Steve Epps says, celebrating a successful hip surgery for my 90-plus-year-old grandmother. Also, Kelly's first week back at work after maternity leave.
Yeah.
Steve and Kelly celebrating with y'all. That's good stuff right there.
Good stuff.
Glad
and
y'all are
hard
part of
stuff.
this community.
Yeah. Larry says today is the day 110 days of sobriety. 110 days walking beside the Lord.
There you go, Larry. We'll lift that up, celebrate that with you. Yes. That's it online?
Awesome.
All right. We have a light celebration online. Y'all made up for it in the house, though, so we're grateful. We're grateful to celebrate with y'all. We take that seriously around here, celebrating. It's an important part of who we are and what we do. All right, y'all. I said it earlier. Part 4 of week 6 of of emotions. Here's a little emotions video for you. Was that turned up a little extra loud tonight? It sounded good, didn't it? It brought some energy into the room. So this is part 4 of our 6-week series on emotions. Tonight it's the emotion of compassion. And really the question we're going to ask tonight is a simple one. You have been shown compassion. Therefore, are you showing compassion to others? Now, there's this scholar and philosopher and theologian and poet and peacemaker. His name is John Philip Newell. I was just talking to someone about John Philip Newell earlier. John Philip Newell, I highly recommend his work. He wrote a book called The Rebirthing of God. It's a bit of a dense read, so be careful, but it's super good. I highly recommend it. John Philip Newell, he shares with us what he calls 3 pathways to compassion. And when he talks about this, he actually talks about it in really simple ways. And they're so simple. I want to share them with you all tonight. They're so simple, they're actually profound, because that's usually the way this stuff works. Like the simple stuff is the most profound stuff. And so he talks about the 3 pathways of compassion. And he says the first one is to simply see the connection, to see your relationship with other people. And that's how he defines compassion, that compassion is about knowing the relationship between me and you. It's a bit like a compass, isn't it? Compass, C-O-M-P-A-S-S. Kind of like compassion. Yes, this word comes from somewhere. There's a history there. In fact, we could do a whole series on the history behind the word compassion. But it's like a compass. And not the kind of compass, don't think of like what you take on a hike with you to tell you which direction you're going. But do y'all remember I think we received them in like the 4th and 5th grade, those little metal objects. Yeah, you love these things, don't you? Any engineers in the room? Engineers, you're still playing with these things, right? Do you remember these compasses? You could stick really poppy tonight, aren't I? You could stick the golf pencil in, remember? And it helps you draw the perfect circle. You remember these? You know what else the compass does for us? It tells us the relationship between 2 points. It's how we measure the relationship between 2 points. And see, that's what compassion does for us. Compassion helps us determine the relationship between us, the distance between us, and hopefully the thing that closes the gap between us. Because the truth is, do you see your connection to other people? Our lives are profoundly interconnected with one another, not just one another in this room, but even with people outside of this room and people across the world that you've never met. Our lives are profoundly interconnected. Do you see the connection? The second pathway to compassion that he describes is to simply feel. To feel that relationship. In other words, you could ask it in a real simple way. When someone suffers, do you feel their suffering? Do you feel what they're going through? Do you feel it not just as a distant thing, but almost as if it's one of your own wounds? Do you feel their suffering? And the truth is, sometimes we shut down this feeling of compassion, don't we? We shut down the feeling of the emotion of compassion because intuitively, I think many of us understand that, man, if we see something and we feel that thing, we feel that relationship, well, then it leads us to the third one, the third dimension, and this stuff actually starts to demand something of us. This is hard work. Because if we see it and feel it, then the third pathway to compassion is to act. To let the feeling, the seeing, lead you into action to where you actually do something about it. See, feel, act. Do you know one of one of his most well-known parables? It's found in Luke's Gospel, chapter 10, and it's referred to often, we refer to it as the parable of the Great Samaritan. Have some of you heard this? It's a short story. Parables are just short stories. And if you're a bit fuzzy on the story, Jesus tells a story, and he's talking to a Jewish lawyer in the first century. He tells a story about a man who is beaten and robbed and left on the side of the road to die, and 3 people pass by this man. The first one to pass by sees what's happening, and he's a religious leader in the community, and he just walks to the other side of the road and keeps on trucking. The second person sees this man laying on the side of the road, and he's also a leader in the community. He goes to the other side, and he just keeps on going. It wasn't until the third person walked by who actually stopped. And what's so profound about this story, what's so beautiful about this story is this person was who? A Samaritan. Well, why is that important? Because in the first century Jewish world, the world of Jesus, Samaritans, they were like a despised, hated people. The Samaritans, they were considered dirty people. They were disgusting. You would never touch a Samaritan. You'd never be found close to a Samaritan. You wouldn't hang out with them. And so if Jesus is talking to this first century Jewish lawyer, the Jewish lawyer is asking, wait a minute, you're telling me something good came from a Samaritan? How's that possible? Here's how the text says it. Here's how the Samaritan responds. It's just one line. But when he saw him, seeing, he was moved with compassion, feeling. The Samaritan went to him and bandaged his wounds, acting. And who knows, y'all, we don't know. Did the first two, did they pass by? And certainly they saw it. They may have even felt his pain, but it wasn't enough to stop and actually take responsibility for this man's brokenness. But this Samaritan stops, picks up this man, is how the story tells it, puts him on his own donkey, brings him to a hotel, says to the hotel manager, listen, however much it costs, I'm going to pay it, just send me the bill at the end. And then this man gets out some wine and oil, healing elements in the first century, and he begins to bandage his wounds. My brothers and sisters, does your compassion lead you to bandage the wounds of the world? And be reminded, you need to remember this, sometimes you will be a part of healing the wounds that you can't even see. You know, I received a call 2 nights ago from someone in this community. In fact, I don't always say names when I tell these kinds of stories, but tonight I'm going to say names because it makes it a bit more visible. Where's Amy? There's Amy. Amy, wave your hand in the air. Amy Stevens calls me on Thursday night to talk about something unrelated, but then she launched into this story, and I thought it was so beautiful. I wanted to share it with y'all, and she gave me permission. And the other person, Hallie, we'll get to Hallie in a minute. She gave me permission to share this too. And Amy says, she said, Ryan, you know, I was part of that book study a couple months back. And she said, you know, when I was sitting in that book study, for the first time I realized, and she's been a part of this community for many, many months, for the first time I realized that I was not being judged in this community. I said, Amy, that's a beautiful thing. And she says, you know what else happened? She said, just last Saturday, I was in the back making coffee, and Hallie walks through the door. And she said, you know what Hallie did? She gave me the biggest hug. And she says, Ryan, it wasn't one of those triangle hugs. And she says, you know what a triangle hug is, don't you? And I lied, Amy. I said I did, but I don't know what a triangle hug is. What is a triangle hug?
It's when you hug, but your body doesn't really touch.
Oh, so it's like a distant hug. Okay, so Amy says she didn't give me one of those distant hugs. She gave me one of those real, firm, life-giving hugs. And then she said to me, Amy, I love you. And Amy said, it meant so much to me. I went to her several minutes afterwards, and I said to Hallie, Amy said to Hallie, you meant what you said, didn't you? And Hallie says, well, yeah, of course I did. Of course I did. I say that story because, see, you don't always know what people are carrying, do you? And the truth is, I'm guessing for Hallie, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you walked in the door last Saturday night, you didn't see Amy from a distance and say, oh my goodness, here's my big opportunity to see a compassionate moment. I see the connection. Oh my goodness, I feel it so deep within, I'm just going to act on it. No. Sometimes, and if you know Hallie, you know that compassion flows out of who she is. See, when compassion becomes a central part of your belief system, and it is a belief system, you have to believe that compassion actually works in the world. You have to believe that you're actually called to healing in the world. And if you're sitting in this room, if you're watching right now, you are called to compassion. I don't know another way to say that. If it's a central part of your belief system and it's a central practice of yours, well, then you'll start to see it, feel it, and act upon it without really even thinking about it. Is it true? And see, you don't always know what the other person is carrying. Who would have known that a simple hug and 3 words would have been a healing act of compassion on that night? You don't always know what they're carrying, do you? You know, it was several months ago. I did a Facebook Live video. I titled this thing, He Might Be Carrying Cake. Some of y'all might remember this. If you missed it, that's cool. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, that's cool. If you heard it, but you're like, I kind of remember it, well, let me give you a refresher because this had a big impact in my life. It was several months ago. We as a family, we hopped in the car and we were heading to Free from our house. I was in the driver's seat. Tammy, my wife, was sitting next to me. The kids were in the back, and we were headed to Free. And for us to get to Free from our house, we go down a few roads. Then we turn and get on C470, and we head eastbound. And then we get off at the Quebec exit. Then from Quebec, we go down a bit. Then we turn right on Arapahoe Road, and then voila, we wind up here at Free. Now, I promise y'all the day was going just fine before this dude got in front of me. And listen, if you're not local, let me explain Quebec a little bit to you. Because, see, when you get off C470 and you get on Quebec headed toward Arapahoe Road, for those of you that know it, you'll affirm this, it's super hilly, isn't it? Quebec goes like this. So here we are coming down we get to the top of one of the big hills and we start to come down. And there's cars beside me and there's this guy in front of me and he is putting on his brakes the entire way down. But he's not just tapping his brakes. He's like, sorry, y'all. He's like putting on his brakes fully the entire way down the hill. And apparently he wants to turn right because he puts on his blinker because apparently he lives in this subdivision, so he has the right to turn right. But when he goes to turn right, he comes to a complete full stop. And then he turns. And Ryan had had enough at this point. So I blurt out, oh my goodness, what is wrong with this dude? Why can't he just turn like a normal person? To which my wife responds, whoa, Ryan, calm down. He might be carrying cake. To which I'm thinking in my mind, in a dire moment such as this, who thinks about cake? Now, if you don't know Tammy's backstory, let me tell y'all, 8 or 9 years ago, she owned a cake company. She would make and bake and decorate these most beautiful cakes, and then she would deliver these cakes to weddings or parties or gatherings, whatever it was. And she would always tell me about what it was like to travel with these cakes and how slow she would have to go, and especially turning corners, how slow she would have to go, because if she went too fast, well, then the cake would come toppling down and it would be a big, gigantic mess. You see, my brothers and sisters, some things will happen very soon. Like probably, if we're honest, what is it, Saturday night? So probably before the end of the weekend, life is going to have a way of getting lifey with you. Is it true? Mm-hmm. Things are going to happen, and let's just get honest with it. Life doesn't happen to you. These things aren't happening to you. Things happen in life, and you get to actually choose how you are going to respond. Because the truth is, probably in the next 24 hours, you're going to get that text message, or you're going to get that email, you're going to get that phone call, you're going to be at the grocery store having a conversation with a stranger, and they're going to say something that's going to get under your skin, it's going to irritate you and annoy you, or someone's going to be right in front of you and make that really slow right-hand turn, and you get to choose how you're going to respond. And here's the deal. You don't always know what they're carrying. You don't know what happened in their job just hours before. You don't know what their family dynamics are like. You don't know if they or someone they love is battling this disease of addiction. You don't know what's going on in their inner world. You don't know their struggles. You see, you don't always know what they're carrying. And when you want to lash out, when you want to boil over a little bit, man, what's wrong with you? Why can't he just turn like a normal person? Be reminded, you don't always know what they're carrying. They might be carrying cake. Now, you do know the life, the teaching, the ministry, the words, the actions of Jesus that always points to who God is, right? So just imagine Jesus is always doing this. Jesus is always pointing to who God is. And so I want to share with you, close with this story. It's one of the most beautiful stories we have in Scripture. It comes from Mark's Gospel, the very first chapter, and it's only a couple verses. And it's about Jesus encountering a man who had a skin disease, and here's how it goes. A man with leprosy came to him and begged him on his knees. So Jesus sees this relationship, sees this man. And this man asked, if you're willing, can you make me clean? And Jesus was filled with compassion. He feels the pain and suffering of this other person. So he reached out his hand and touched the man. See, feel, act. And without reading the rest of the story, you can read that later tonight when you go home from Mark's Gospel chapter 1. How many of y'all know exactly what this story is about? How many of y'all are like, yep, that's me. That's my story. In the very depths of your addiction, or in the very depths of you watching your loved one battling this thing of addiction, you cried out. You were like, God, save me. God, make me clean. God, make me sober. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this on my own. Yep, that's my story. Yep, this isn't just a first century thing. This isn't just a thing in the New Testament. That's a world thing. And the truth is, part of you, if you're honest, how many of you expected to encounter a God who was, if you're honest, a little bit disgusted with you, a God who's a little bit ashamed of you, and a God who may offer you some healing, but first this God is going to punish you a little bit because that's what you tell yourself you deserve, so this God's going to beat you up a little bit. And instead what you encountered was a God who is filled with compassion. A God who sees, feels, and acts. And this God actually reaches out God's hand. And by the way, when you read this story, Jesus was not acting in compassion because this man begged him to do it. Jesus is compassionate because Jesus is compassionate. And aren't you glad that God's compassion towards you has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do. It's outside of the categories of whether or not you deserve it or don't deserve it. I mean, aren't you glad for that? Because see, God's love for you comes from the depths of a mother's womb. You know the word compassion in the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible. It comes from the word womb. It's translated from that word womb, a mother's womb. So many times in the Old Testament, this God is described as compassionate, and when this God is described as compassionate, it's usually next to the image of a mother's womb in the text. Isn't it strange? God's love for you is the same as a mother's womb. There's a text that says God's womb trembles for God's sons and daughters. Whew. Moms in a room, is there anything deeper? Is there a deeper love than that? I mean, aren't you glad it's outside of the categories of deserving or not deserving compassion? Because let me be honest with y'all. On January 7th of 2013, when my wife Tammy came down the stairs and Ryan's passed out drunk again on the couch, and she came down the stairs at 6 a.m. that Monday morning with tears in her eyes, holding another empty vodka bottle, saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And in that moment of desperation, my sobriety anniversary, January 7, 2013, in that moment of desperation, God, can you just make me clean? God, can you make me sober? Do you see me? Do you feel me? God, are you going to act or not? Yes, in that moment, God reaches out God's hand. And then when I go into my first 12-step meeting, and I sit with a group of people, and they love me like a true love, teaching me how to love myself, because I had no freaking idea how to love myself. I didn't know that was possible. And I would stand in front of people and preach about, oh, you got to love yourself. Jesus created you and you're full of love. And man, I didn't believe it was true for me. And in that moment of desperation, God reaches out God's hand. And you know, I mean, we could keep going. Think of the 12 steps. There they all are on the wall back there. Doing this work of the 12 steps. Man, it's hard work, isn't it? How many of y'all told yourself, oh, God's against me on this one. Wait till I get to step 9. Then I'm going to really get what's coming to me. Step 9, we make amends to people that we've harmed. And I thought, this is where I'm going to get what's coming to me. I'm going to get what I deserve. This is who God is. This is how people are. And man, in that moment, this God was reaching out his hand. And then being here with all of you, starting free, seriously, take a moment. And you know what I tell my son, Breck? He was scared to go to school this week. He was scared he was going to get bullied. I said, buddy, put your hand in front of your mouth. I told him to breathe. And I said, when you feel that breath go on your hand, that's a reminder that God is with you, because God is in your breath. God is in your breathing with you. So y'all take a moment, put your hand up. Do you know what a gift it is to be here? I was saying to Dara at the beginning of the service, remember we were talking about, isn't it think of the blessing it is that here it is on a Saturday night and we're not figuring out where to get our next drink. We're here with all of you and we get to do this. In this moment, God is reaching out God's hand. You see, my brothers and sisters, God is compassionate, not because you deserve it or don't deserve it. God is compassionate because God is compassionate. And it's true. I say it most weeks. Why do we call this place free? Because all the things that set us free, grace, compassion, love, forgiveness, these are the things that are so freely given by God. If you let compassion into your life, if you open your heart to this compassion stuff, I believe it truly can set you free. Do you remember the compassion that God has shown you? And are you seeing other people? Are you feeling other people? Not just feeling them, but feeling their pain and suffering. Is it becoming your own wound? And is your compassion leading you to bandage the wounds of the world? Because, y'all listen, the world needs you. The world needs you and all your compassion. So take a moment and reflect. And we'll come right back in 60 seconds. All right, welcome back, everybody. You know, we do it every week. We give you all 60 seconds to reflect on some of the deepest stuff our lives are made of. How does that feel for you? Is it rushed? Well, here's the good news. You get all week to reflect on this stuff. Like, not all week. I mean, you can reflect on it for many, many moons, and you're never going to figure all this stuff out. That's why we have to talk about it. We don't have this stuff nailed. We don't have compassion nailed. It's why we have to keep talking about it. So that's why we talk about that stuff here, because your recovery, if you're in recovery, by the way, we've got a new code, don't we? What's our new code? Love and tolerance is our new code. That has a lot to do with compassion. All right, listen, y'all. Every week, if you're new with us, we do have a, what's up, Oaks? We do have a guest storyteller that joins us each week to share some of their experience with the theme we're talking about. In this 6 weeks, we're dealing with emotions, and this is the emotion of compassion. And so tonight, I want you all to help me welcome, where is he? Greg Maloney. Is he still here? Okay, I was like, dude, his seat is empty. I'm like, did he get cold feet? Come on, Greg, be compassionate with us. Listen, y'all, I can't wait for you to meet Greg. He's going to share some of his story with heroin addiction, meth addiction, booze addiction, and what God's compassion was like in his life. And, well, I won't say more because I want you to hear from him. So help me welcome Greg to the table. What's up, my brother?
What up? What up? Whoa.
So, yeah, dude, I say it often, don't fall off of these. They are a bit feeble. They spin. Some people, when they talk, they want to start spinning in it because they get nervous. So if you start spinning, we're going to
It
pull you
might
right
happen.
back.
I've had a couple Red Bulls today.
So let me just state the obvious first. You work out.
It's actually an allergy reaction, allergic reaction.
No, you're a personal trainer, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, did I make that awkward?
No,
Okay, good.
it's cool.
I was saying earlier, we got a picture together, and Say is going to Photoshop my arms to make them look as big as Greg's. Okay, now I'm getting awkward with it. Let's jump into it, though. So you said some, if y'all don't know how, are we on this camera? We're on this one. No, this one. It's this one. We're on both. Every week I meet with our guest storytellers, and because we have one every week, so I don't know everyone's in-depth story, so I get to learn pieces of their story. And so when Greg and I were meeting this week, you said something about compassion that has stuck with me, and that's why I added it in my message, man. It was like, oh, that's right. Like, compassion it's so far outside of those categories of deserving and not deserving. And you said, man, if it was about deserving it, if I got what I was to deserve.
Justice, yeah.
Yeah, if I got justice, I'd still be locked up.
Yeah,
But
or
God
dead.
saw fit to give compassion, and you're doing something with that compassion today. So tell us a little bit, back up. Maybe I jumped ahead too much, but tell us about what led you to getting locked up, what led to a life of not being compassionate with other people.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, dude.
So I got sober, clean, whatever, March 1st, 2018, so just over 3 years ago. And I got locked up by the grace of God for doing a variety of different crimes to support my heroin habit. And so I was at that point, I was at, the deepest depths of my own hell, and I had no hope. I had no light at the end of the tunnel. I had a complete desperation. I had the desperation of a drowning man. And when I got locked up, I prayed from deep within my heart. I just said help. And I'm crying, withdrawing from all the stuff. And
God, make me clean.
Yeah,
like
God
the guy
help me,
said,
man.
huh?
Yep, God help me be clean. I just didn't want to live that way anymore. My mom's in hospice care. My kids visiting me through the video screen, all the things. And once I got through my withdrawals after praying that prayer, I started to feel like grateful that I was locked up. I felt like, okay, maybe this is my chance. So a great weight was lifted off my shoulders, and that's where it began. And then I started to see all kinds of different miracles and spiritual experiences in jail. It became some of the greatest times that I've had being locked up.
Yeah. You can say that in this community, and some people in here know exactly
People
what you're
know.
talking about.
People know.
And they're funny. And tell people, Greg, because you also you were clean and sober for some time before that. For I think 8 years, you said, right?
Yep, I had 8 years clean. Yep.
And at some point, you thought it was a good idea to pick up heroin again.
Yeah, I stopped doing the things, man. Stopped going to meetings and all that stuff, and I picked up again. So I stayed out there for 12 years, and so I was so desperate. And this time, I just couldn't get any significant time again, and so I thought that I had squandered my chance at getting sober, and so yeah.
So when you looked at yourself and you're sitting there in a jail cell, how did you describe God? Were you like, how did you think God was going to respond to Greg's life?
Oh man, in the jail cell, I don't know. It certainly wasn't a picture or an idea or anything like that. At that time, it started to become an experience. I started to read different texts in there, reading the Bible, reading the big book and things like that, and just words started popping out at me, and things started to be revealed to me that hit my heart in a new way that I just never saw before. And so I started to gain more hope, and I started to receive that gift.
Yeah. So you were given compassion.
Mm-hmm.
I want people to hear, what do you do with that compassion today? And I want you to tell the story you told me the other day about, because sometimes what we do is when we start talking about compassion, we go to the big stories.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was that guy that went to Africa and he did, and that's important too. Like, go to Africa all you want, it's important. But sometimes we got to see what's right in front of us. It's why, like, the story of the hug to Amy from Hallie, it's why it's so powerful, because it was so life-saving. You told me the story the other day about you work with other people.
Mm-hmm.
You have a sponsor, and you sponsor other people. So
Yeah.
you have sponsees, men that you sponsor. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so again, it's just some very simple things. I went to read the book with one of my sponsees. He's got more time than I do, and I left my book for some reason. I got in there. He said, I said, I forgot my book, dude. He's like, that's all right. I didn't want to read anyway. I just need to talk. And so this is he's a retired fire chief. He's been through traumatic experiences, seen every kind of thing that you can imagine in his life, and so he's got a lot of PTSD, and he just needed to talk. And so I just sat there and listened, and I did exactly what you talked about earlier: the see, the feel, and the act. And so for me, that seeing was listening to him, and I sat down and I just listened, and I just kind of nodded and just heard him. And then I felt it, and I would get teared up, and I was, weeping with this dude. I've got tears in my eyes. And then at the end, we closed out, and I didn't have to say anything. There was nothing I said. I got up and hugged this guy, and we hugged for, I don't know, it seemed like a couple minutes. And we were both weeping at that point. And
Had that ever happened to you back in your active days of addiction?
No.
Did you ever embrace another man and weep?
not, it wasn't mutual, no. Please don't cut me off.
Keep going.
So yeah, man, that experience, he, and I kept following up with him a couple days after that, and I said, is there anything I can do? How are you feeling? He's like, you did everything you possibly could for me there. You just listened, and you heard me, and I felt heard, and he just needed, some people just need to be heard, And then another example, I'm sitting over here, and we took that 60 seconds just before we got up here, and I have a friend whose son had her buddy passed away, 11 years old, and so I could see that my friend is struggling with that, and then I got to feel that compassion. Well, I got to feel that, and I get to, with God's help, I get to be connected and feel those feelings.
Yeah.
And that's a real special thing for me, because I for so long I tried to feel, tried to laugh, tried to cry when I was in active addiction, and I could never do it.
Man, and you said something too that, and I heard it early in sobriety, that getting the drink or the drugs out of the way, that's not like your ultimate connection to God, right? But it's the thing that stood in the way for us. It was like the thing that blocked us from the sunlight of the Spirit. It was the thing that kept us from connecting to God. And when we're stuck in that addiction, we don't feel for other people, because somehow we make it. Jerome touched on this a couple weeks ago. We have a way of making it all about us, don't we?
Yeah.
And then we can all of a sudden feel. Another thing Jerome talked about too, and you just hit on, was this act of compassion being about listening to people. You said it. Sometimes compassion is shutting up and listening.
Yeah.
Tell us how you tell us about your son.
Yeah, man. My son, he's 14, and he's kind of going through some things, experimenting, and he smokes marijuana and smokes cigarettes and vapes. But I discovered recently that he's been smoking pills, which is fentanyl, and so man, I've had to really practice compassion, and practicing this program in our families is some of the hardest things we have to do today. And so for me to, what do I do? Like, I really just have to trust and rely on God and seek guidance, because I'm a parent. I've got an older daughter, but what do I do? Like, do I chain him to his bed? Do I beat him up? Do I, what do I do? And so every time I just come back to, how can I be helpful? Love and tolerance. What can I do to show this young man compassion? And then I get to guide him with my experience. And nothing I really say. I mean, I can guide him a little bit, but he's going to see what I do. And, and so, that's that action piece, and then he gets to feel heard, because when I get pedantic and start talking down my nose at him, he's going to shut down.
Yeah.
So.
What, if you were to give someone hope, someone who's barely hanging on, someone who's watching their son or daughter go down a road that they know is going to lead towards destruction, how do you give hope? How do you offer compassion in that? So, is it that camera? I always get it confused. I think it's that one. Look into that camera, and for someone that's watching and they're barely hanging on to this stuff, what would you say to them?
I would say just, I have to pray, and I have to ask God for the next right action. What can I do? What's the next loving thing to do? And God, guide me and direct me, take care of me and protect me, and then I just get to, the greatest way for me to exude compassion is just eye contact, and that's it. And just care and listen. I don't have to say a darn thing. It's going to be my body language, how I'm showing up. Am I sitting there receiving you?
It's hard, when I went to my first 12-step meeting, it was one of the first ones I went to, and I was talking to a guy, and I thought he really needed to listen to me, and I was sharing some things with him that I thought he really needed to hear, and he said, "Dude, would you mind making some coffee?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, you're not listening to me," because there's something about shutting up and serving other people. That's like the best way to compassion.
Agreed.
My dude, thank you for being here tonight. Let me say this. If you are here tonight and you want to stick around and ask Greg some questions, if you want to connect with him, are you going to stick around afterwards?
Yes.
Do that. Connect with Greg afterwards. If you want to connect online, if you have questions for him, maybe if you're able to, jump on the thread later on this evening or tomorrow, sometime this weekend. Jump on and respond to people. So grateful you're here. So grateful you're part of this community now.
Me too, man. I love this community. It's awesome.
Dude, yeah.
Such a special deal.
I'm glad you're here. So let's hear it for Greg. Thank you for being here, my brother. All right, y'all. The way we close things down around here is with heartaches, because we share some heavy life stuff together. And I know someone said earlier, we're just not created to carry this stuff alone. We don't carry these heavy burdens alone. We actually open ourselves to other people. So listen, I want you to take 3 minutes, just like we did with celebrations. Take 3 minutes. It's your opportunity to get vulnerable. And I know someone is watching right now saying, well, I've got something on my heart, but it just seems a little creepy to put it in a Facebook comment or a YouTube comment. Yeah, I know it does. It feels awkward. It feels weird. It feels like this is real. Yeah, you're getting vulnerable. That's always going to be uncomfortable. Get uncomfortable. Let this community in, because one thing we know is we carry the burdens together, but also God always hears the cries of the people. And we believe that here. But we got to get vulnerable and actually share that with one another. So if you're here, we'll take 3 minutes and do it in-house. And if you're online, take 3 minutes, put it in the comments. Or if you're not going to put something in the comments, that's cool. Pray for others as they're writing something in the comments. Pray for this community. All right, y'all, let's take 3 and come right back. What's your name?
Lacey. My name's Lacey.
If you're online, just bear with us for one moment. Go ahead, Lacey.
I just went through a really hard breakup. I was engaged, had everything ready to get married to someone I thought was a godly man. But God just kept revealing to me that that wasn't who I was supposed to be with.
Yeah.
As heartbreaking and as sad as it is, that ended today. So I think it's the best thing, but it is really hard. I just would appreciate prayer right now.
Prayers for you, a broken relationship, broken engagement. Prayers for you, Lacey. Thank you for sharing that with us. Is it your first time here?
Yes.
I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Free. Yeah, I'm glad you felt comfortable enough to share being new. That's awesome. D-Dog, let's do some prayers together, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, you take the first one. This is to join in to recognize that you online have some prayers too, so we read just a couple of those and let you all be a part of things. So let's do it.
Amy, pray for us as we drop our daughter at school tomorrow and say goodbye for 7 weeks until we visit late October. My heart is breaking. I know it's an exciting time for her, and we're so proud, but it's so hard on this mama. Definitely lifting you up in that time. That's never
How many mamas
easy.
can relate to this? There's lots of hands in the room, Amy, praying for you. Yeah. Jen says, pray that we find Mama Dog and her 10 4-week-old pups as a foster family, or I may end up divorced. Okay, you can't adopt all the dogs in the world, so yeah, don't do that. Don't get divorced over this. Yeah, we're going to pray they find some foster homes. Y'all can't help out here in the room because Jen lives in North Carolina, so don't get any crazy
She'll
ideas.
be here soon, won't she?
She will be here soon. Just
Right.
bring all the dogs with you. Come on now.
Brian, my aunt is still in the hospital. She's going on month 4. They said how she could get out is to stop her complaining and yelling and fussing. Pray that she finally gets it. Thank you. We lift up that God may calm her and help you, Brian, through this moment in time.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for being part of this community. And Vicky says, prayers for my cousin. His mom passed away this week. Vicky, prayers for your cousin and the whole family as you walk through this loss together. Prayers for you.
Monty, prayers for my 89-year-old brother who is very ill, and for my grandson that he gets some guidance for his life. Prayers for your brother and your grandson, lifting you up big time, Monty.
Shall we do one more? Christy says, praying. Christy is Jen's partner, by the way, so don't get divorced. Yeah, for how long are you guys going to stay married? Praying power comes back on at our house quickly. We have a house full of rescue puppies and their mama. So you can't make this stuff up, D, can you?
This community, it's
As
real.
well as our dog, it's hot in North Carolina. I think it's hot everywhere. We've had fires here covering our smoke here. So anyway, prayers for you, Christy and Jen, and they are coming out here soon. We can't wait to see y'all. It's going to be fun. But prayers for all the dogs in your life.
Prayers for you, Christy. Amen.
Should we do one more? Do we have one
Sure.
more? Let's do one more. You take it,
Jennifer, still struggling with the heartaches and letting it out. And we pray that you can get vulnerable and that people that are in your life show you compassion so you can let it out, lift each other up.
All right. Thank you for being part of this, man. Love you, dude. Thank you all for being vulnerable in this community and sharing, and let us heartache together. We don't walk this journey together, and in fact, it's why the wagon has been a central image in our community from day one. In fact, this very wagon sat next to our tree when we were in the backyard 3 summers ago when we started Free. Do y'all remember this wagon? Lisa was there. Jim was there. You remember this wagon? So it's still a central image. I shared the story last week. If you want to know the story of the wagon, do I need to tell it real quick? I'm going to make it real quick, y'all, because we got new people here. You got to hear the story of the wagon because it's who we are, really, and I mean it. I was at the Union Rescue Mission in L.A. This was a few years back, and it's the largest rescue mission in the country. And so I was taking a tour with the executive director, and we got to the top floor where their memorabilia is. And on the top floor, there's the picture of a wagon in the middle. And I said, dude, what's the story with the wagon? He said, you don't know about the wagon? And I said, no, I don't, but apparently I need to know. So he told me the story of the wagon. He said the wagon, this wagon on the wall, when the rescue mission started back in the late 1800s, this wagon would go into the roughest parts of LA, and it would distribute things like hope and food and clothing clothing and Bibles and other items. And then at the end of the night, the wagon would welcome anyone who wanted to get on the wagon to jump on, and they were headed to a place of healing and recovery. Now, at the end of the night, what happens when you get a bunch of drunk people on the wagon? Some of them fall off, but he told me what this wagon would do is stop when someone would fall off, and the sober ones would get off and help the drunk ones back up on the wagon because they knew where they were headed. And when I heard this story, it was mind-blowing, and I thought, that's the church at its best. I mean, that's who we should be, and if we ever start a movement, wagon's going to be a central image. So I got a tattoo of it on my neck. I loved it so much, and it's still a central image of this community because we don't do shame. We don't shoot the wounded. We welcome you back in. We welcome you back on and back home. And on the wagon, we have a giving box, which is really just a Kleenex box, but from day one, it was a giving box for us, so we've kept it. And there's other giving boxes scattered around free. And I need to tell y'all that really it is your generous giving that helps the mission thrive here of creating space for healing, connection, and recovery. And I need to tell y'all that yes, we are in the midst of a large campaign. We set a big goal of 600,000 to help us prepare for this new home that we're getting. We thought we had it. You know the story. About a week and a half ago, we lost this thing. We're not stopping. We're still searching. In fact, we're looking at spaces again this week. We're going to find our new home. We're not going to look around. There's over 100 people here tonight. We don't have room in this space, so we truly need bigger space. That's not an ego thing. We need bigger space, and we're getting kicked out of this space anyway, so we truly need bigger space. And so if you want to give and be a part of this, but I want you to remember this first. It's always about the people, isn't it? And I was reminded of that last week. Your giving is never just about a building. It is always about the people. So take a look at this little video that Matt shot.
I'm Matt. I'm an alcoholic. Free for me is definitely connection, as cliche as that is. I know in my experience, my mind wants to tell me every reason why I don't fit in, why I don't belong, have me isolate, and then I'm off to the races. I'm just drinking, and I'm in self-pity and shame, and this place gives me an opportunity to get out of myself. As much as it could be uncomfortable or scary, meeting people and having to be vulnerable, it gives me an opportunity to actually connect with people and not be alone. Well, let's see, the first time I tried to get sober, I was 18, and that was back in 2008. And I had 2 attempts in 2008. And, my story's littered with 5 treatment programs, 2.5 years inpatient in Teen Challenge, 180 Ministries in Denver, 5 sober living homes. It's been a struggle, countless detoxes and hospitals, and, it's been a lot of build up to tear back down. What's not different about this community than traditional church? I mean, my most recent relapse, I came here drunk, and the pastor prayed for me and welcomed me back, and I mean, that is the church. I would say just come. I would be leery of anyone who said they weren't nervous when they first came, or scared, or just downright terrified. If you're anything like me, groups and social settings is your biggest fear, and you feel most alone in a crowd. This place is not like that, but you still got to take the steps to be vulnerable. You got to introduce yourself. You got to say hi to people. But if you're willing to do that and take those steps, you're going to be met with open arms. You'll be loved, and that's really all it's about.
Matt, all the way in the back with the tech team. Glad you're here, brother. Glad you're part of this community. Love you, man. So glad you're here. By the way, thanks to our tech team for all they do for us each and every week. That team is growing. There's like 12 of you back there. So listen, if you do want to be part of giving here, and I know for many of you it's a spiritual practice, I just need to remind you there's 3 ways to give in this community. Outside of the boxes here, you can download the app. If you don't have the app, Free Spiritual Community, and you can give right there. You can do it as a one-time gift or weekly or monthly, however y'all want to do it. You can also go to freespiritualcommunity.com/give, and you can give there. And if you want to give to the home campaign, the Welcome Home campaign, just put that in the memo. Or text the number on your screen, and it'll give you a simple set of instructions. Your generous giving sustains the mission here at Free, And we are so, so grateful for it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for those of you that give of your time, energy, money, all that you give to this community. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, y'all, shall we go out with a prayer? Drew, which prayer should we go out with tonight? Serenity prayer? All right, here's what I want to have y'all do. First, take a big, deep breath. You feel it? The divine is breathing in you and through you and all around you. Put your hand up if you need to be reminded of it. God is everywhere. Open your hands. It's a sign of openness to what God is doing all around us. And the reminder of there's some things we can change and there's some things we can't change, and we need wisdom, don't we? So if you don't know the Serenity Prayer, it'll be on your screen, and it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. And my free brothers and sisters, this week, may you go in grace and peace. May your compassion lead you to bandage the wounds of the world. Grace and peace. We'll see you next week.
People ask me what my secret is. I just smile and say, follow me. I'm sitting on top of the world. Life's too short not to really live. I got a big heart, I can let you in. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. On top of the world. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. On top of the world. People ask me what my secret is. I just smile